SANDHAN. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello everyone. In today's session, we are going to learn primary auxiliary verbs. Well, every sentence requires a verb. If there is no verb in a sentence, the sentence cannot be meaningful. So, to make a logical, relevant and meaningful sentence, a verb is a must. But then, what is a verb? Let us first learn what is verb. A verb is a word that denotes an action, an event and a state in a sentence. For example, as you can read on PPT, he runs fast. Here the word run denotes an action. Second example is the competition took place yesterday. Here the word took place or say the took is a verb that shows an event. And the last example that you can read on PPT is she is happy. We can have many more such sentences. For example, she is clever. He is smart. All these sentences show state of being. So, in these three sentences, the words run, took and is are the auxiliary verbs or say the verbs. They are action verbs or main verbs. Let us now go further. A verb is not necessarily of one word only. A verb may also consist of 2, 3 or 4 words. For example, I live in Ahmedabad. Here the word live is main verb or action verb. To live is an action. Second example is that of I am living in Ahmedabad. In this sentence, you have 2 verbs. You have third example, I have been living in Ahmedabad and I may have been living in Ahmedabad. So, in all these 4 sentences, you have group of words that function as verbs. And in all the 4 sentences, the group of words or verbs that you have show different kind of moods and different kind of tenses of a sentence. Let us now come to our main point, auxiliary verb. Earlier we said that verb denotes an action, a state or an event. But then what is an auxiliary verb? Well, auxiliary verbs are called helping verbs. They modify the main verb of the sentence. We have to note that when we say main verb of the sentence, we mean the action verb of the sentence, the word which shows some kind of action in a sentence. Auxiliary verbs are always preceded by the main verb. This is a very important condition in a sentence with the auxiliary verb. They always precede the main verb. They help verbs to form sentences. They help verbs to form tenses, voices and moods. This is the primary function of the auxiliary verbs. The verbs such as be, do, have, shall, will, can, may, etc. are called the auxiliary verbs. For instance, please read the examples from the PPT and observe these examples carefully. Let us take the first example. She has gone to the market. The highlighted words are has gone. Please note that the verb has is auxiliary verb and the word gone is the main verb. To go is an action. The auxiliary has adds to the meaning of the sentence. It modifies the main verb and it has also changed the tense. Let us take one more example. We are decorating the hall The highlighted words, as you can see, are and decorating. As in the first example, here also are is an auxiliary verb and decorating or decorate is the main verb or action verb. Let us have one more example. You can speak in English. Here also can is an auxiliary verb and speak is the main verb or say the action verb. Auxiliary verbs are sometimes used as main verbs also. Earlier we noted that auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. They help to modify the main verb. They add to the meaning of the main verb. They change the tenses. But that is not the only function of the auxiliary verbs. They also function as the main verb in a sentence. Let us have some examples. Please check on PPT. Nina is smart. The verb used is auxiliary, but it functions as the main verb. It denotes some kind of state of being. Let's see one more example. They did it. Now do is an action verb, but here in the sentence it is the auxiliary verb that functions as the main verb. And one more example you have is he has a car. So has the auxiliary taking the position of the main verb. What are these auxiliaries doing? The auxiliaries which function as the main verb, they simply give meaning to the sentence. They neither modify nor add the meaning, they neither modify the main verb, but they give meaning to the sentence. To move further, we shall now see types of auxiliary verbs. There are mainly two types of auxiliary verbs. A. Primary auxiliary and B. Modal auxiliary. In today's session, we are going to learn primary auxiliary verbs only. What is a primary auxiliary verb? Well, primary auxiliary verbs are used to make tenses, active and passive voice, negative and interrogative statements. These are the four functions or four things that are served by the primary auxiliary verbs. Please check on PPT. What do these primary auxiliary verbs do? When they change the tense, when they change the voice, or when the sentences are turned into negative or interrogative, what happens? Primary auxiliary verbs change their form according to the tense, number and person of the subject. The verbs be, do and have are primary auxiliary verbs. But then you have some variations in primary auxiliaries be, do and have. What are these variations? As you can read on PPT, other forms of be are am, is, are in present tense, was and were in past tense, been is used to make past participle and being is used in continuous tenses. Similarly, other forms of do are do and does in present tense, did in past tense, done for past participle and doing for the continuous tense. And other forms, other variations of have are have and has in present tense, had is used in past tense as well as in past participle, and for the continuous tense we have the variation having. To understand these points clearly, you can have a table. Please read the sentences given in the table. You can see three columns: subject, primary auxiliary verb and main verb or action verb. It begins with I am or was going. As I said earlier, if it is present tense, we will take am. If it is past, we will take was. You or they are or were going. In the earlier slides, we saw that the auxiliary verbs change their forms according to the tense, number and person of the subject. So, in the table you can see that first it is I, the first person singular, and second it is you and they, that is second and third person singular and plural respectively. Hence, there is a change in the auxiliary verbs as well. With I, we have am or was, and with you and they, we have are and were. So, our condition that auxiliary verbs should change their form, keeping the tense, keeping the person and number in mind, is justified. Please read the table further. He, she, it is or was going. I, we, you or they have or had gone. Please note that in the earlier table we had am, is, are in conjugation with the ing verb forms. Here we have the auxiliary verb have, and that's why the conjugation of the main verb will be in the past participle tense. He, she, it has or had gone. Gone is the past participle of the main verb to go. We know that to have verb form is changed only in the third person singular, he, she, it. With the third person singular, it takes has. With all other pronouns, first and second, singular and plural pronouns, it takes have. And the variation of the auxiliary verb do, I, we, you, they do or did not come. It is in past and negative. We also have he, she, it does or did not come. Let us have one video related to the auxiliary verbs.
Helping verbs am, is, are, was, were, has, have and had. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define helping verbs, use am, is, are, was and were as helping verbs, use has, have and had as helping verbs. Identify helping verbs in the given sentences.
Susie, where have you been all this while? What happened, Fleck? You sound very excited. Susie, we are going to the circus today. The circus? Yes, the circus that I was telling you all about last week. Daddy is taking us to the circus. You are coming with us too. Really, Fleck? Thank you so much. I am very excited to watch those funny clowns and colorful jugglers. I want to watch the roaring lions and the dancing otters. When are we leaving for the circus? The circus has just begun. We have to leave in an hour. Oh, we have very little time left then. I better hurry home and get ready. Yes, see you in some time.
We just saw Zizi and Fleck talk about their plans for the circus. They spoke about what they'd like to do at the circus. They used words such as going, taking, coming to refer to the actions that were taking place. These words are called verbs. A verb is an important part of a sentence. A verb is a word used to express a certain action done by somebody or something. It is also called a doing word. In the following examples, the verbs goes and eats refer to action or doing words. A verb is also used to tell us the state or condition of somebody or something. In the following examples, the verbs am and are refer to a state of being. A verb also tells us about the time of an action. The tense of a verb denotes the time of an action. There are three main tenses: present, past, and future tense. The present tense of a verb tells us about an action that is taking place now or an action that happens regularly. The past tense of a verb tells us about an action that took place at some time in the past. The future tense of a verb tells us about an action that will take place at some time in the future. Look at the following examples. The verb goes refers to the present tense since it talks about a present moment. The verb went refers to the past tense since it talks about a past time. The verb will go